I'm Jacques and I'm going to talk about the Civil War soldier's life. During the Civil War, the soldier's life was very hard. The Union had tents made out of two pieces of cloth buttoned together. They used their guns to hold up the tent when it was not raining. In the winters they built log cabins that hosted many soldiers. The cabin was small and any gaps were filled with mud. In the Navy, the children helped reload the guns. The soldiers walked 15 miles non-stop daily. Each, each soldier got separate orders depending on what his status was. There were different ranks of soldiers, the foot soldiers, the cavalry, and the light units. In the light units, there were sharpshooters and artillery units. Some say that the artillery units had the hardest job and the most tiring job. The artillery people rode horses, but they had to reload the cannons, which were not easy, and the cannonballs did not make it easier. They also had to keep the cannons safe from enemies' attack, so they usually had the heaviest and the most variety of guns of all other types of soldiers. The soldiers' most basic weapons was the 1842 muskets, cannons, revolvers, and much other type of guns. The soldier always enjoyed a good feast, but when food was not available, it was common for soldiers to go for days without food. When there were very little food, it would have gone like this: bread without meat and coffee without sugar. Sometimes if they had spare money, they went to a farmer, and if the farmer had shot an animal that day, or hunted an animal that day, he would slaughter it, and depending on the money the soldier had, that's how much of food they'll get from the animal. There was always something to do, even if they were not fighting or guarding or marching and drilling. Sometimes half of them went foraging and the other half would guard camp, and some soldiers would cook and heal the wounded. The soldiers carried a knapsack which contained all the stuff they needed, like clothing and writing utensils. It also carried their personal stuff. The knapsack weighed at least 15 pounds. The Unions had rubber blankets and wool blankets to keep them warm. The Confederates did not have rubber matting because they could not produce it themselves. They often stole Union's equipment. They carried a canteen filled with water and a few sacks, which carried bombs, fuses, and a small amount of ammo. They also carried a harvest sack which contained food. The soldiers always worried because they were always thinking about their families, and they always shared grief when they lost a comrade. The soldiers weren't always near large bodies of water, so they couldn't always wash themselves. Their food was not always safe to eat, and the drinking water was contaminated sometimes. Their sleeping place was dirty, and if they cleaned it in a pot of water, where they usually drank from, they would contaminate the water and the drinker. In the camps, if you were wounded, you were properly infected, but you could not be treated properly because the medicine we use today is not available then. It was also easy to get sick or catch an infection or a virus. They lived so close to each other that the disease could spread easily because they were not in a clean environment. In total, more soldiers died of diseases than gun wounds. The soldier's life was not easy, as you can see. If you were soldiers then, you would have fear daily if you're gonna survive another day. Food was not available, as well as clean water, because it wasn't always clean or safe to drink or eat. The Union had over 2 million soldiers, but they suffered the most casualties. The Confederates had less than 750, but they suffered the less casualties. It is really hard to be a soldier, and most of the time you are hungry and thirsty.